To make the sign, I first printed the image on Oracle 813, which is a stencil vinyl, and here I'm just peeling off and cutting off the excess vinyl. Then I'm going to go in with my scraper and get rid of the air bubbles, which you're going to see happens a lot. The paper, it seems like there's a lot of air bubbles, but overall I still think it works really well for this project. Here's contact paper I use as transfer tape, and you can basically find this anywhere. It's just basic contact paper. I'm going to apply it directly on top of the design and use it to transfer it to the wood. And I folded it because it was curled up, and then I found that if I folded it, it kind of straightened up. And also, I always put it against my pants to kind of get the stickiness out of it because it's really sticky contact paper. So once I get it applied, I take out the air bubbles again. I flip it over and peel the mat away from the design. And here, this is the back. This is the 813 Oracle back. On the other side, I have the contact paper. And I found when you roll it off, if you keep it as flat as possible, then it comes off really easy and you're not taking the letters with it. I thought it was going to be a good idea to take the stencil out, weed the stencil with the contact paper on the other side. And as you can see, it didn't work out very well. I ripped through the paper and it kept tearing. It just wasn't a good idea. So I took the piece of wood, applied it, the sticky side down to the piece of wood, and smoothed it out. Now I'm just peeling the contact paper away from the Oracle 813. Again, I'm keeping it as flat as possible when I peel it away, and I didn't have any problems getting it to come off. Again, scraping out those air bubbles. Now I'm going to weed it directly on the piece of wood. And this is where it came in really handy that it does get a lot of air bubbles because I didn't have to gouge the wood with the tool. I was able to find a loose area or a bubble or something and was able to pull it right off of there without hurting the wood. Up to this point, it's weeding really easy. At this point of the design, it starts getting more delicate. And if you haven't done this yet, you just want to make sure when you do peel these pieces away that you're not immediately putting them in a ball and mixing them with the rest of them, because sometimes a piece that you want to stay will be with it and then it's hard to go find it. And here's the part where you're going to see what I'm talking about. I took off the end of the Y and I had the inside in there with it. So just make sure you keep it all intact and just put it right back where you started, and then you'll just carefully weed away the part that you don't want to stay behind. I've tried different methods of using the stencil to paint signs, and this will be the first time I've tried this method. I'm going to use Mod Podge. I heard that it helps diminish some of the bleeding. I've done it without it, and I had some bleeding. It's not anything too bad, but I thought I'd just give this a try just to see if this worked any better. And I'm just dabbing it with a sponge brush, and then I'm just going to fill in all of the open areas with the Mod Podge. After my 2 layers of Mod Podge is applied and dry, now I'm going to go in with my black paint. I believe it's the Chalk Waverly from Walmart paint. And then I'm gently applying it. I'm trying not to let it go underneath the vinyl stencil because I don't want any bleeding. Now that the paint is mostly dry, I'm going to go ahead and peel off the stencil. And you have to be really careful when you peel it off because you don't want any of it coming back with paint and getting on the wood. Now I'm going to go in and try to clean it up a little bit. There was only a few spots that I wasn't really happy with. As you can see under the E, there's a little blob of paint, and on the side of the D. Other than that, it's just little things. And then I went in with a toothpick and just touched up little areas that I thought needed a little more paint. Here I'm going to use a coarse sponge, or it's almost like a sandpaper sponge. And this is good about using to distress it, especially if you have paint on this one sign is stained, but if you have paint, it's good about roughing it up. And I used it also kind of around the areas that it looked like it was bleeding a little bit. It worked a little bit, but it wasn't a perfect fix. And now the sign is done. I'm just going to drill some holes in it, put in some wire, and hang it outside.